Hi guys, welcome to AGI Inception. Today we have Madhav Mehra. Hi Madhav, how are you?
I'm good, Rupesh. Alberto, nice to meet you.
Nice meeting you.
So tell us a little bit about yourself.
Sure. So, hi guys, my name is Madhav. I lead conversational AI sales and operations for Active.ai. And other than that, I am tech enthusiast. I'm an ex-farmer. I moved to the US 10 years ago. Before that, I spent my life in India. So I bring all that experience with me to this discussion.
Same page.
Good. And you know, we're glad so far. This is our 10th podcast, no? Or 11th.
It's going to be number 11.
Yeah, the 11th podcast. We haven't had an expert in conversational AI. So this is really exciting because this really matched with the theme and the premises. So Rupesh, could you take us there, please?
So yeah, coming back to the entire theme of AGI Inception, what would your first word command be for artificial general intelligence to start its self-assembly and also follow that as one of the first principles?
Yeah, I think we talked about this briefly earlier. I think my word would be B.
Oh, that's interesting.
B.
Right. And the reason is, I mean, if you think about it, personally, I don't believe in an overpowering, self-aware, like a religious entity, right? Because I just think that's the most egoistic thing human beings have done, is to believe that in amongst all the billions of stars and amongst all this huge universe, there is somebody who's thinking about us or paying attention to us. It's just to boost our own ego, right?
No, actually, and you know, that's interesting that you say that, because Rupesh and I were talking about this about a month ago now. Wow. People don't understand the vastness of the universe, and there's this test. It's called the grain of salt test. You just put a grain of salt, put it against the sky in your finger, and you put it in your finger. And when you look at the most powerful telescope that mankind have done that to just that little grain of salt in there. And they found that there are 10,000, it's 10,000 billions of galaxies. And they say, wait a second, that's just one grain in the star. Imagine. So I understand what you're saying, and it actually brings us to your word,
Correct. And so, but yet there is life, right? And therefore, in the last 10,000 years of civilization, for our own historical reasons, anthropological reasons, society reasons, we have veered towards a majority view of there must be something more powerful. And I see this with my child, right? She's now almost 7 years old. And she likes to believe that there is magic and unicorns and fantasy items. And, you read the same thing about all the ancient civilizations, thinking there was a god of water, or there's a god of lightning. It's across all cultures. It's the same gods, right, that repeat themselves. But let's keep that, I would say debatable part aside. But there must have been, why did all these Big Bang spread out atoms? Right? How did they configure themselves into this random structure, which created life ultimately? Right? There's another way to think about this, is that you and I are formed out of atoms and molecules that are a fourth or fifth generation star. So the sun is not a first generation star.
Yeah,
right? The sun is formed itself out of a star that went nova. Mm-hmm. And then the things came back. In a first generation star, you only have hydrogen and helium. When the nuclear reactions happen, you start getting carbon and nitrogen. When it all explodes, you get the more complex elements. Then all of it kind of gets together and reacts further, and then you get more complex atoms. So the things that we need for our life, like potassium or selenium or some of the other cadmium and other elements, they can't even exist until 3 or 4 stars have died.
So let's talk self-assembly. in there, because that's what
Yeah.
we're talking.
So, and that's what I'm coming towards. Thank you. That's what I was coming towards, is that therefore there is somewhere, maybe there is an interest in those atoms to be more than just atoms.
Makes sense.
And similarly, there has to be, in the AI, there has to be something that tells that software code. Ultimately, it's nothing but 0 and 1, correct? But that 0 and 1 of that byte code, somewhere it has to decide, I have to be. And until then, there is no general artificial intelligence.
So we are basically talking about
take that example.
the existence of consciousness.
Wait a second, Rupesh. Let me in here, because this is very interesting in here. Okay, somehow it needs to be. Somehow it needs to be. Now let's use be as that first word. So, but then later on you become conscious, be, okay, but then what happens when you have access to all the information on the internet? And we know all that this information, there's good, there's bad. How would it determine from be, or being in this case, grammatically anyway, from being to what? To what will be the next complex evolution?
And I think you answered it. It is evolution. It learns by itself from its experiences. It decides what it has to be. So when a child comes into the world, the child has now, with our years of evolution, it has some genetic impulses to eat, to behave in a certain way, and so on. But remember, the nature versus nurture fight. When my child cries and I immediately pick it up, I'm training the child that crying will get you places. If my child cries and I let it figure out things on its own, it figures out things on its own. So I don't think human beings have figured out quite now what is good or bad. Is capitalism good when 30% people are under the poverty line in the world? And when, the climate is going haywire and, we are killing the planet for ourselves, not for other species. But, or is socialism good, where, again, there is some, the huge megalithal government can't manage situations either? Or is the Gandhian economy good, where each small village is its own self-ruling entity, right? So we haven't figured out economy, we haven't figured out money, we haven't figured out anything. So we don't know what is good or bad. So I think if my entire feeling is we should not be scared of AI. AI is a ticket to the stars. Humanity will not cross the light years of this earth, the 10,000 billion galaxies you sped. We cannot get there in this body.
No.
The only way we can get there is we can offload our thinking and our humanity into an AI program which can cross the stars.
It reminds me, I just watched a series in Netflix. I don't know if it's French or Belgian. It's called Transfers, and in English, and it's something similar, that the technology have advanced where we can upload and download consciousness into a different body. And if it's a different body, it can be a different entity, it can be a signal, whatever it is. And as a matter of fact, I was telling Rupesh that it was so good that I'm going to try to contact the producers to see if they could be our guests. And now let me ask you about good and bad. Good and bad.
Yeah.
I think that you're right. There is not an agreed upon definition of good and bad. Now, there are certain things that a great majority, I think, of people agree. And is that killing for no purpose is wrong. I mean, to defend yourself, I'm going to give that as an example of an exception. But overall, killing is not good. So what do you think your AI will react to the concept of murder?
So I think, it's difficult to say, right? From a single word, when we are saying the objective of that word is to tell the AI to begin living, and that's it. Be. Now, if you're extending it a little bit more philosophical, kind of a little bit stretch of imagination, a B is also telling you to, hey, you are a part of the world. You are in this world. You are, interact with the world, right? And therefore, can you become the world, or you are the only thing of the world? That would be one very extreme interpretation, is to be the world. Okay, it's only me and nobody else, and therefore I kill everything else. Possible. It's possible it could veer in that direction. And then it's also possible that it decides, no, B means to be like the sugar cube in the water, right? And merge itself. So I think that's the interesting and experimental part of it.
Wow.
You know what is the best thing I like about
go ahead, Rupesh. Go ahead.
Like, it is the very first step towards consciousness. Like, the existential case of artificial general intelligence should and will begin with the word be in its very own way. Even if it is not the core principles, that is one thing which the AGI will have to learn regardless, that it exists with everyone else. It is just not that there's going to be a different ecosystem altogether it would exist in.
And yeah, exactly. So if you look at Shelley, perceived by Shelley's Frankenstein, right? What is that doctor willing? He's willing that cadaver, that monster, to be, willing it to be alive. So we are willing it, and that willpower, and that was I was alluding to. Maybe there is no God, but there is some willpower. There is some hidden energy which we have not yet monitored, which tells all those atoms and molecules to be life. Right? They could be happy buzzing around the space.
And that would be you. You understand? That's what we're saying. That would be your AI, be. And it would be and it's telling them to be alive. And in these days, be alive is more than just breathing. Be alive is feeling. Be alive is, apart for some people, maybe a sense of community and family. For other people, would be economic impact that they have, whether in their family or the community. But what will you be, AI? Would it be? What would be the second node that you would say is B, for being alive, for being conscious, is your first one? What would be your second node?
Second, I think it would still be, it's too early to say what could be, because I think there's a lot to be riffing upon and expanding upon. So you touched upon this, right? Where living or doing things, what does maybe be means to be more than just this one life, right? Mm-hmm. So an interesting example here, the richest man ever on the earth,
John D. Rockefeller.
No. Rockefeller was very far down the line. No, it's the ancient kings. It's either somebody like Emperor Akbar from India, or it is there's a gentleman who was on the west coast of Africa. You should read up about this. There's a BBC article about this. Who I think in present day Eritrea or one of those countries, they had the biggest gold deposits ever. And he became king because his brother decided to take 10,000 ships and go off in search of the new world, and went somewhere to Brazil or somewhere and was never heard of again. 10,000 ships back in the 14th or 15th century. And this gentleman then took 1,000, 2,000 camels full of gold and went to a pilgrimage to Mecca and destroyed the gold price forever because he donated so much gold. And none of us even know his name. I've read about it. I can't remember his name. But the point is that there are very few human beings who transcend time, whether it is Jesus or Muhammad or Krishna or Ram, that we, billions and billions of people remember the name. An interesting side project, Rupesh, if you want to do it, is figure out how many human beings have lived and died on this earth so far. How many Homo Sapiens have lived and died in the last 10,000 years? And then you think about be memorable.
Makes sense.
Wow.
Live on forever by your actions.
I love it. I love, and I think because of time constraint, we need to wrap it up. But be alive. Wow, what a concept in terms of both spiritualism, as you well explained it, that there are certain figures in history that even when all these Homo sapiens we have died through history, we still remember because they were being alive in a specific way that we remember. And with that, we want to thank you. We really, really want to thank you. And we invite all our viewers to reach out to our guests. And if you want a good conversational AI, now you have the mind behind it. Thank you.
I won't say good. It's just okay.
Hey, come on. You're just being modest there.
Well, yeah. I mean, see, we all try to do what we do, and I think and again, it's that imperative to strive, to keep striving, right? And let's hope we can take this further. Very nice. Thank you so much, Andrew.
Thank you so much,
Yeah.
Madhav. It was great having you on the podcast.